Alrighty, students, today is Tuesday, May 12th. Today we're going to be talking about drugs and identifying what a drug is, what are they used for, and how they can hurt your health. Now, I say that, and most of you are like, well, drugs are bad, but you're not thinking about prescription drugs. And there's a whole list of drugs that we're going to talk about today. And let's talk about prescription drugs first. Prescription drugs are things that the doctor gives you to help your health or to take care of a problem. So somebody who is on antidepressants would be given that by a doctor. They would have to go to a pharmacy and pick it up. Those are prescription drugs, and those are included when we talk about drugs and alcohol. Then there's over-the-counter drugs. These are things that you can go into the store and buy. These are your Advils, your Tylenols. Okay, these are things that you can buy to help, take care of small problems like headaches, swelling, stuff like that. And then there are street drugs. This is marijuana, although marijuana has become legal in certain states medically. Marijuana is more of a street drug right now than it is a legal drug. And then the heroin and other things that you would have to go to some sketchy person and they would sell it to you. And it's used recreationally, not to fix health, but to give somebody a high. And that is the effect that they're after. They're not there for their health. They're there to get high, and those are the kinds of things that they're after. So, prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and street drugs. Those are the three categories of drugs that we're going to talk about. When we talk about drugs, can prescription drugs be used incorrectly? Yes. So, a lot of drug use, and Ohio has a huge problem with what are called opioids, which are painkillers, and heroin is like a painkiller. It gives the same high that a painkiller would do. This is why that many problems in the state have developed from prescription drugs. Prescription drugs are where they have estimated a lot of people have gotten their addiction from heroin. They had like a broken arm and they were taking the painkiller. Now, they may have taken one, but their arm still hurt. So then they started misusing the drug by taking more than what it says. So it might have said take one every 8 hours on the pill bottle. Well, if they took two when they weren't supposed to, or they took two too quickly, they just misused the drug, and it can have negative effects. Drug addiction to street drugs can happen because people are misusing prescription drugs that doctors give you. So just because a doctor gives it to you does not make it safe. Another thing that happens is when I had my wisdom teeth removed, they gave me painkillers. They say take as needed. Well, on the first day, my mouth had big gaping holes in it and there was stitches. So I was in a lot of pain. There was a lot of swelling. I may have taken one or two. By the second or third day, I didn't need them anymore. I couldn't manage it, and I just did not like taking painkillers. So I was like, I'm going to tough this out. I'll suck it up. By the time I was all done, I went back to football and did my workouts because if I took the painkillers, I couldn't work out. So I was just like, well, I'll just suck it up. I waited a week, and then I went back. But I had a bottle left of a bunch of painkillers. What do you do when you have a bunch of pills left over? Well, what's common in Ohio is that people actually take this and they have a medicine cabinet. So they'll put it in their medicine cabinet so that when they have an issue again, they'll be like, well, the last time I felt pain, I took these. And that's an inappropriate use of prescription drugs. You cannot take a prescription drug that was given for your wisdom teeth and now a month or two later, because you stubbed your finger, take that drug, because that's misusing the drug. It also makes you more likely to get addicted because you didn't need it, and it's going to give you this high feeling or effect on certain people. Some people it doesn't do that, but for others it does, and this is what starts the addiction. Okay? So, when a doctor gives you drugs, and when I say drugs, prescription drugs, He's doing it to help you for a certain cause. You should not keep them and self-prescribe in a medicine cabinet. Now, Tylenol and Advil are way different. The potential of abusing them is really, really low because they don't have really bad side effects. So, when you do have one of those instances, there's usually programs like drug pickups that you either go to the police station, a fire department, and sometimes pharmacies take back old medicines. I'm not sure how it works in Bowling Green. I've never called, but that's because I don't have a lot of medicine. I don't have any medicine that I take. So I've never looked it up. But my parents are actually people that keep all the old medicine, and it's not good because another thing that happens with old medicine that can be really, really bad is that it expires. Medicine can actually expire. Now, when it expires, two things can happen. It can actually get worse and not work, or something in it like could dissolve out, or one thing that made it act slow loses its potency and suddenly it hits you all at once, and that can be even more dangerous and it can lead to death, which is why when you have medicine you should not keep old medicine. It's misusing medicine and it can lead to addiction to other drugs. So how did this lead to heroin for a lot of people, which is what I'm going to get into. Heroin is an opioid. Painkillers are an opioid. If people keep taking painkillers because they have a really bad back, were involved in a terrible car accident that might have just destroyed parts of their body and they're always in pain. Well, they keep taking these drugs and eventually they become addicted. It becomes part of them. And when they stop taking it, they have withdrawal. But some doctors at some point are like, we're not going to give you the medicine anymore. We need to get you over this with physical therapy. And what happens at that point is these people go through withdrawal, which is extremely painful. Like, they'll go through extraordinary amounts of pain, sweat, shivering. They just can't go without the drug. Their body has become dependent on it. So what has happened to these people where they had got addicted to a prescription drug? Well, this is an opioid. What would take care of the terrible feelings, the withdrawals? Heroin. So because they got addicted to prescription drugs, now they're going to heroin because it does the same thing and it gets rid of those terrible feelings. Another thing is that when you keep old drugs, it increases the chances of people becoming more likely to misuse it. So let's say that somebody was mistaking the drug because they liked the high feeling. Now the drug's gone. You can't just go to the doctor and say, hey, I want like another pack of those, because that's not how this works. If you have nothing wrong with you, they're not going to give you a pack. Now, this person is addicted. They want the high feeling. So where do they go because they misused the drug when they didn't need it? They go to street drugs and they go to heroin because it does the same kind of effect. Now, it's way more dangerous, but just because this is a street drug does not mean that prescription drugs can't kill you. Prescription drugs can kill you just as much as street drugs like heroin can. Okay? And I know this is really hard. I don't have any of the models or anything. So, prescription drugs can lead to street drug use. Although they're legal, if you take them the wrong way or they're given to the wrong person, that is illegal. All right? And it is a crime. Okay? So, these things lead to addiction. And I'm going to give you an example of something that was around when I was like 17 or 18, and they had changed the laws because it was such a problem, and it is a problem in Ohio. Ohio has a very, very high rate of opioid and heroin addiction and use, okay? So, when I was 16 or 17, this is an example of how they had to change the law. A lot of cough syrup had codeine and pain, codeine, which is a opioid, and it would make a person feel high. So you might have heard in music videos where rappers and people are talking about something called lean, and they're talking about mixing drinks or purple drink or something. They're talking about how they would mix cough syrup with other things because the cough syrup had codeine in it, which would make people high. People started doing this, and this actually led people to go and take heroin and other drugs. It got them addicted, and they were misusing cough syrup. So, like, I think it was maybe 4 years ago, possibly 5 years ago, Ohio changed the law. And they're not allowed to put that stuff in cough syrup anymore. So they got rid of most of the amount of in cough syrup. And that's just something that happened recently that people were misusing. Okay? It used to be you could go and buy it. Now you can't go buy it over the counter. You can still get cough syrup, but it doesn't have any of that stuff in it that made people buy, that were making people misuse it. All right? So laws are constantly changing, and one of the things that we're probably going to see is that people do not get prescribed pain meds as often because of how much it has led into addiction in Ohio. So that's prescription drugs, street drugs, just a little intro to drugs. Realize that prescription drugs are just as dangerous as street drugs because you can get stuck and get addicted to prescription drugs, and that can lead into street drug use because once you're addicted, just because a doctor doesn't give you doesn't mean you can't get it from somebody who's selling it on the street. And that's how this started. Okay? I just wanted you to realize that when I talk about drugs and alcohol, prescription drugs are also in there and they could also be misused for terrible purposes. Okay? That's it. No homework. I'm going to avoid giving it because we only have about a week or two left, and I don't want to give homework and then have less than like 3 days for you to do it and find a way to grade it and catch up on it. So let's work on getting everything else done. I'm just trying to give you a lot of knowledge before we get ready to gear up for next year, okay? Have a wonderful day.